Neurxstem is a precision and predictive brain disease medicine company that diagnoses brain disorders and diseases and is also working to discover novel therapeutics to treat brain diseases and disorders. And with me is the CEO and founder, Rene Anand. So welcome, Rene. Great to have you here. So give me an overview. What does your company do?
So our company is a diagnostic and therapeutic company. It is using stem cell derived brain derivatives from patient skin cells, and using that tool we're able to actually begin to understand how a disease progresses actually from birth.
Okay.
So we are a diagnostic company primarily, and that's our product that we are bringing to the market. But the same model is powerful to predict how medications will work for brain disorders.
Very interesting. So would I use your therapeutics once I have a brain issue, or would this be something predictive, or how would the average person use this?
Yes, actually, that's a very good question. What this will become is part of a standardized baby care a strategy where right from birth, you will know the biomarkers that predict your susceptibility. But with it will come some very powerful information about the environmental factors and nutritional factors that take a susceptibility into a disease. So you will be able to intervene long before you actually get the disease.
Very interesting. So how do you do that as a little newborn infant? Does that happen in the hospital?
That is where we are going. We are moving fast with Alzheimer's disease. We can predict it at birth. Okay, this is a big difference between everything that's going on.
Huge, yeah.
And we are about 6 months away from asking for FDA approval to bring this test to the clinic.
Okay, and that would mean it would be in a clinical trial?
Yes, we will be working with clinicians in hospitals to establish the validity of the test in families, for example, where they have the susceptibility.
I see.
And we'll be taking the samples from them before they get the disease and establishing that our technique actually works.
And so then the technique then would be altering your diet, your lifestyle to mitigate the chances of that happening at some point in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Think of it like for a diabetic. Once you know you're a diabetic at birth, like a type 1 diabetic, you alter your diet, you alter your nutritional, and you take medications at some point, insulin, for example. Very much like a glucometer, we will know what's going to happen, and we will give you choices that are going to defer the onset, or better still, you never just get the disease at all and don't have to deal with the... And we're doing this for all brain disorders.
Okay.
We're bringing Alzheimer's fast, but we are making very rapid progress on Parkinson's, schizophrenia, brain cancer, and also opioid drug adverse effects.
Interesting.
We are funded by the federal government, the NIH, to move the opioid front rather quickly.
Okay. Now, so I'm just thinking about what kind of long-term implications this kind of treatment could have. I mean, outside of just the heartbreak that it is to see a family member in that kind of condition, I mean, the cost to the healthcare system, it must be tremendous. Quality of life, I mean, this really has some major long-term implications.
Yes, you're correct. This will have a major impact on the financial burden that families face when they actually get the disease. By prevention, you're going to actually reduce your cost and have a better life, and you'll have more control over the progression of whatever susceptibility you have to not make it into a clinical disease. So it's actually a very different way to look at how medical sciences will change, and this is where the precision and predictive capacity plays a major role.
Yeah, well, and we know the treatments for Alzheimer's in particular have been so disappointing. I mean, for years and years and years. So this is a totally different way of approaching that problem.
Let me give you an example. You know, there was a time in polio, the only cure was the iron lung. That was the current status. But thank God somebody came up with a vaccine, and most of us live polio-free. In many ways, you can imagine that is a metaphorical way of seeing how we're going to go with brain diseases. My hope is we will also crack cancer. That's coming. And we are very excited because the data is very accurately predicting the human condition. And we know this by looking at postmortem brains from patients. We know we are very accurate.
Yeah. Now, so tell me about, so you mentioned the clinical trials. So what has to happen before we may see this in mass use?
So we have to reach the FDA approval, and we will connect with them and ask for their guidance. And they, basically it's an issue of scaling and validation. So they'll expect us to show what is the, right now we think we're close to 90%. And so we'd have to establish that as a clinical threshold for providing that information with FDA approval to the caregivers, whether it's pediatricians or neurologists or oncologists, so that they can intervene in the different ways that I just talked about. And by the way, they include, as we just talked, nutrition and also avoiding certain environmental toxins.
Interesting.
That is becoming very apparent.
Yeah. Now, you also have some space exploration
Yeah.
kind of like a part of this as well.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Yeah, so one of the things that the International Space Station and a futuristic view is humans are going to go and try to live on Mars and on the moon, and they have different gravitational conditions. So one of the experiments that are ongoing, actually right now in the ISS, are stem cell model like ours, but for the heart, to see how microgravity affects your health. So I think as we continue to explore space, we hope to have the kind of technology we have, but for brains, to see how microgravity affects the development of the brain. And it is futuristic, but it's not that far away.
Yeah, well, there's a ton of space stuff going on right now. I mean,
Right.
we saw this summer, Virgin Galactic going up
Right.
and Blue Origin. And I mean, it just seems like that's an area where there's a lot of things happening and will be in the future. So.
Right, and I happen to be a reviewer for NASA on space explorations and human biology.
Yeah.
So that's the exciting thing that I would like to the next generation to know,
Yeah.
that our technology goes way beyond what's happening with disease, but also about the future.
Okay. Fascinating stuff. Thank you so much,
Thank
Rene,
you.
for joining us.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you as well. We'll be right back.